I wonder. Okay, I think we're good now. This is gonna be the most awkward thing I think I've ever done. Huh? Probably. I don't fucking know. I just exist. I don't know what the fuck I even do. Okay. Well, we're here to talk about how socialism is the future. I started this yesterday, but we're gonna see where it goes today because I stopped it yesterday. So this is horrible. Like, I don't know how people like how do people even start these? I kind of fast forwarded to where I was discussing. What is this?
Will punish their own citizens for just criticizing the CCP. Which,
Wait, what?
speaking of, in fact, the overwhelming majority of all Chinese wins in the last 50 years can be attributed.
Wait,
People have
what?
also enjoyed a very noticeable increase in their quality of life in the last 20 years. And plus, it's really hard to deny just how beautiful the Chinese skyline is at night. I mean, seriously, just look at it. It's not bad at all. It kind of makes you want to visit there. A lot of those major Chinese cities really do look pretty darn good. And indeed, there's tons of videos out there on YouTube you
I
can
mean, they
find
look
of people visiting
okay.
Chinese hotels and being blown away by them. So I guess that's it then. The
Yeah, but
socialists
like I was
finally did it,
saying
and all of
yesterday,
us.
so like those hotels that they let everyone go to, those are those are the ones they let you go to. There's probably like some sort of like cherry picking they do. I would think because like obviously they don't want people going to like the ghetto hotels. That wouldn't make any sense. I don't know what that is. While recent regulations and initiatives aim to ensure all licensed hotels in China accommodate foreign guests, some establishments, particularly smaller or budget hotels, may still refuse to accept foreigners due to unfamiliarity with registration procedures or lack of staff training. However, legally, all licensed hotels in China are required to accept foreign guests and register their stay with the local police within 20. What? What? China, when you stay at one of their hotels, they make you they make the hotel people say call the police and say, "Hey, I have a visitor here from another country." Isn't that wild? That's weird. I because the U.S. doesn't have anything like that. Prevalence of refusal. Despite the legal requirements, some hotels, especially smaller or less experienced ones, might still refuse foreign guests due to administrative challenges. What does that even mean? Administrative challenges. Like, we're gonna look this up. This is in January. Understanding Chinese hotel policies. In recent years, China hotel policies have been foreign guests of China. All of that's just to cover up. Yeah, they're gonna make every hotel now work hard so that their country doesn't look bad. And I guess that makes sense because the U.S. would kind of do something similar. They do that with like tourist areas. I mean, I guess I could see that. That's just I don't know the fact that they have to call the police, and say, hey, I have a person here from another country. Not all Chinese hotels are licensed to accept foreign guests. Understanding of a foreigner can stay at a Chinese hotel can be tricky. There is no place you can officially look it up. That's just weird.
Crazy free marketeer libertarians, well, it looks like we were just plain wrong. Or perhaps not. Or actually, not at all. Not anywhere near close. Yeah, in this video, I'm going to be explaining why this claim from various internet socialists that the Chinese Communist Party has created successful socialism is nothing more than pure 100% unfiltered cope. And I mean
the
maximum
the little socialism or like the little success they do have is riding off of the coattails of socialism. We fund that country by buying all of their shit. Like that's what I don't think people understand is that when you go socialist like that, you require outside funding. Like the U.S. could fund itself if we brought, and that's kind of what Trump is trying to do. He's bringing businesses back. He's trying to like if we could reduce our own steel, like how we were in Pittsburgh way back when, like what in the 70s and 80s. Like we could do so much more.
copium straight from the copioid factory. Because when you take a more in-depth look at things, you'll realize that the Chinese Communist Party has not achieved communism, has largely reversed most of its socialist policies since the mid-1970s, and has been relatively unsuccessful. In fact, the overwhelming majority of all Chinese wins in the last 50 years can be attributed to factors outside the actions of the Chinese Communist Party,
Exactly
or the
what I was saying.
CCP as they're sometimes called. Rather, the CCP is actually responsible for most of China's problems.
Exactly what I was just saying. They're riding on the coattails of capitalism and saying, "Well, we did it. It's our country. We did it."
As they are guilty of numerous sins. Sins including genocide, oppression of their own people, forced organ harvesting of political dissenters,
That picture, I'm pretty sure, is illegal to
including
share in
genocide,
China.
oppression of their own people.
What is that? The Tank Man or whatever. Is it illegal to be gay in China? Is it illegal to vape in China? To share. It is highly restricted and essentially illegal to share the Tank Man photo or any content related to the 89 Tiananmen. Wow, I can't pronounce that. That's horrible. With what? The Chinese government heavily censors the internet and blocks access to websites, images, and discussions deemed politically sensitive. I was wondering, that's I don't usually like going to Reddit, but sometimes they have some good stuff. Whoa, what? Okay, I think that's enough for that for the day.
Forced organ harvesting of political dissenters, political repression, completely unnecessary market regulations,
Yeah,
severe government corruption, sometimes
that's
near
another thing. Is the Chinese social credit a thing too? Doesn't fully exist. There are indeed various local and private systems in place. These systems often involve points-based or credit-style scores, are primarily focused on economic and business activities. Well, economic can mean a lot of things. That can mean, well, you bought milk 3 times today. You're messing with the economy. We're gonna drop your score. No single unified system. China does not have a single centralized social credit system that governs all aspects of life. Many local governments have many local governments have implemented their own social credit systems. That's kind of weird, and I guess the U.S. kind of has this like with criminals. I would think it's like a similar like you can look up a person to see if they're criminal, but that's not really social credit. That's like I'm not gonna get stabbed today kind of thing. I guess. No, I don't think anyone has said nationwide. It's a social credit system. If it was nationalist, they'd be national socialists. Like I don't think they're national socialists. They're like Chinese socialists. The socialist market economy. Is that what they use? Is a Marxist adaptation to Chinese conditions. See, the problem is like socialism is literally just a theory. Like it's all like you can't go and touch the social aspect of life. At least with capitalism, like it's profit based. Like you can touch profit. $1 in your pocket is profit. If you're earning $1, that's you're providing value. I guess it's not necessarily money. Like you could do a trade system with capitalism. It doesn't have to be money. You use bitcoins, but the value, I guess, I don't know. That's kind of a complicated situation because you can't really touch value. You can understand what value is, and I, I, hmm, I don't because value could also mean different things for different people. I guess hold up here. Oh, private ownership of the free markets, while social advocates for social ownership. Yeah, so that's what it is. So private ownership, that means one person or a group of people own. The focus on collective welfare. The problem is with the collective welfare is everybody has to work towards collective welfare. So like what is a major city is around 96,000. What? I don't even make half of that. Like and the problem is that's comfortably, right? There's gonna be like people that need more, and there's gonna be people that need less. So that's like a I would say a decent average. The average person in a big city, and then you gotta take into account like that for a family of four, which probably contains kids. So obviously the kids can't contribute to socialism, but they also can't contribute to. Just like what if like. Hmm, The problem is I think too much, and I'm not really good at putting my thoughts onto paper.
Total suppression of free speech, no real free press, so to speak, religious persecution, as well as spying on their own citizens and people abroad, even, with the usual
What?
extensive internet censorship, where they actually will punish their own citizens for just criticizing the CCP. Which, speaking of bad actors spying on what you're doing online, this video's sponsor is private internet access. A lot of people, unfortunately, still don't quite understand why you need a VPN while using the internet. And it's often the same old fallacy of thinking that if you aren't doing anything wrong, then you don't need privacy. Yeah, no. This mentality will trap you in the mindset that it's perfectly fine for
Yeah.
government and hackers to be able to effectively stand behind your back and watch everything you are doing. The reality is, whether it's those hackers trying to steal your identity, your credit cards, your passwords, and other personal data, or the surveillance state or copyright trolls, a VPN remains the best way to protect yourself from these problems at a cost that is significantly less than the danger of using the internet unprotected. Private internet access solves the problem for you by using RAM-only no-log servers and top-of-the-line encryption to mask
Oh
your
hell
IP
yeah.
online and stop potential bad actors from stealing your info. Not
Yeah,
only are they a
catch those
top-quality
packets
VPN, but their app is
before
stable,
someone else
user-friendly,
catches
and
those
available on all of your
packets.
devices without limitations. PIA also comes with excellent downloading and upload speeds, tons of security features, and one particular favorite is that it is very streamer-friendly. They have servers all over the world you can choose from, and many of them are optimized for Netflix, Hulu, Amazon
That's kind of
Prime,
cool.
HBO Max, Disney and Paramount Plus, etc., etc. And you can use PIA to unlock the
I know
geo-restricted
they're
content on
kind of
streaming
cracking
services,
down
allowing you
on
access to a much wider variety of
that kind of,
movies and TV
especially
shows. It is
ISPs.
also very
ISPs
affordable.
are
If you use my
limiting
personal link in the description below, you can get private
VPN
internet
use a
access
lot.
now for 83% off at only $2.03 per month, plus 4 months free, and all covered with a 30-day money-back, risk-free guarantee. Seriously, it's a good VPN. Get it. Anyways, to truly understand why the Chinese Communist Party, or again the CCP, is not in any way responsible for the vast majority of any of the successes that any of the Chinese have had in the last 100 years or so, you first need to get a quick rundown of the history. The CCP was first founded in the early 1920s, but like most communist parties, they kind of started out as a mostly milquetoast intellectual party that focused more on the
Really?
universities. However, that's actually a pretty good strategy, and so they did start to slowly gain power, mainly leading up to the rise of Mao
Well,
Zedong.
yeah, because
Now, Mao was not one of the core.
if you control the education in a country, that's how you like you just try and logic people through theories and stuff. It's happening with the U.S. right now with like the Liberal Party and the progressives. So it's like everyone's like not pseudo intellectual, but they like any thinking is true, and they will try and logic you into accepting that thinking, like whatever you think is true. You're literally changing your perception of reality. You're not changing reality, you're changing your perception of reality. I won't get too into that, but you get the point.
Leading founders of the CCP. He's just the most famous because he oversaw the CCP's transition from a simple political party to the leading party in control of the Chinese government, as he is the man that is often seen as responsible for the victory of the Chinese Communist Revolution and the dominance of the People's Liberation Army from October 1947 to effectively now. However, Mao Zedong was an interesting man. He can be considered half an intellectual and half a military leader. Again, keep things short. This
Oh,
unfortunately may be the reason many of his ideas and practices can be considered quite cruel and evil. He adopted a style of Marxist-Leninist theory mixed with Chinese thought, partially from the early CCP intellectuals and part his own vision of a Chinese future. Mainly, he believed very strongly in violence as a way to gain favor and control, with a heavy emphasis in the ends justify the means mentality. For example, he would publicly.
and see, that's another bad thing. The ends justify the means. You can't morally do that because you could say, well, if we just kill all the poor people, we won't have poor people anymore. So therefore, our poor, like everyone has food. Everyone has food because all starving people died. That doesn't make any sense. Like, you're not bettering society. You're just killing them, or you're you're not bettering society, you're completely changing um the aspects, not even the aspects, like it's hard to like put down. Like I said, you're changing reality. You're changing the perception of reality. Well, we don't have any poor people. Yeah, because you killed them all.
Torture and execute landlords to gain control of an area, regardless of
Yeah.
whether or not they
See,
had done anything wrong.
well, the Chinese government created all of this because you killed all the landowners. This is this is Chinese government property.
And then he would promise his plunder to the peasants simply as a way of getting them on his side. He would also torture and murder random people to gain false confessions, which he would then use to justify more power grabs, often against his own party. So even other members of the CCP, accusing those he viewed as getting in his way of gaining power as being counter-revolutionaries, regardless of any real evidence. It was all just consequentialist and him gaining power, so this can be most easily understood as a rule by fear strategy. As the CCP became the dominant political party post World War II, Mao secured his position as the leader through effectively implying by action that anyone who opposed him would be labeled and then imprisoned or killed without outright stating it. And so
Yeah,
then
so
the
you just
obvious
control
question
what people
about
think.
Mao becomes, or the Mao question as we'll call it, is did the ends justify the means? Well, if by the ends in terms of Mao's personal status, he did manage to stay in power quite a long time, but if by the ends we're talking in terms of being good for the long-term well-being of the Chinese people, well, obviously and very absolutely not. Mao Zedong's reign stands as a textbook historical example of communist failure. His Great Leap Forward policies managed to somehow be an even worse version of previous Marxist-Leninist collectivization stupidity, because Mao believed he could industrialize the nation without sacrificing farm output by collectivizing the farms, despite the fact that farm collectivization had already proved to be a failed policy idea decades prior in
Yeah,
the Soviet
because
Union. Which is sad, but also very
wait,
interesting, because a
wait.
very common commie cope about the Soviet famines, at least, is that famines were just more common back then, so, it was just bad luck or something. Yeah, pure cope. But then here was Mao experiencing the same fail in the late 50s to late 60s when famines were far less common. Estimated death toll of the tale of Chairman Mao and yet another farm collectivization fail, 15 to 55 million. So very
Yeah, okay, and with that, the problem is when you like it's kind of a bad idea, not necessarily a bad idea, but it sounds morally corrupt when you say, well, if profits aren't included, like whoever owns does not care about the product per se, per chance. Uh, they care about what they get from the product. And socialism, what you get from the product is a happy society. Well, the only downside of an like unhappy society is revolting and civil unrest. Well, if the government's in charge of everything and there's civil unrest, I mean the ends justify the means. They just kill all the people who are civilly unrested, and boom, no more civil unrest. Everyone's happy again. Look, everyone's happy. And with capitalism, like, yeah, profit, money, for the love of money, but you're not gonna make that money if your consumers don't want the product. And that's the problem with monopolizing. When these companies have monopolies in these things, it forces people into like one product, and that's not fair. Because then they can just jack up the prices, like what they're doing with groceries and stuff now. A lot of these corporate farms are causing issues.
very much not good. Next, Mao's Cultural Revolution was little more than purging the Chinese people of their heritage for no real reason other than it was allegedly associated with lay capitalism and therefore lay bad. What it did in practice was just shut down businesses and schools while persecuting any intellectual or artist deemed to be associated with said lay bad, lay capitalist culture, while ultimately screwing over skilled workers. The people you kind of need for an economy to function or advance. And then there was also
Yeah,
the
you
general
need because
issues of unrealistic quotas in.
you need the skilled workers because they're not the average, but they're like the standard. Like you want skilled workers, so like those skilled workers are like they can teach other people to be like just as good, if not better, than them.
To the Chinese economy under Mao. One of the biggest problems with communism is that it tries to centrally plan economic output that would, in a privatized system, be handled by incentives. To try
Yeah,
and get around this, a
exactly.
communist regime will often use quotas to incentivize people to act instead. This is because there's a kind of a problem here. To get someone to do something for you, the only two
Yeah, but
consistent ways.
so like does do they have money over there, right? Like does what would it be? Have pay rates? Do they have a minimum wage for different provinces, municipalities? And see, that's another problem is like who's how do you determine the value of workers without understanding what the product is worth, because like in socialism you don't know what the product is actually worth because like the people determine what it's worth, but how do you not know if a product is worthwhile if like they're already deciding what's being made? Like there's I feel like that it stifles innovation. I'm gonna look that up. Innovating under socialism is a complex topic with differing perspectives, with proponents arguing for potential efficiencies through centralized planning and resource. See, the problem with centralized planning is uh, when you centralize that kind of thing, like it's only one way of thinking, and when you're innovating something, you don't want one way of thinking. You want like many ways of thinking, and that's what creates um, what's the word I'm looking for? Not like competition. It creates competition because then you're trying to out innovate the other person and provide it at a low value, not a low value, but a low cost. And with centralized thinking, well, it's like, well, we know what the innovation is. This is the price. Instead of, well, what are these people charging? How can we make this cheaper? It's just, this is the price. This is how much, um, I don't know. Um, yeah. See, critic like FA argue that central planning struggles to generate the spontaneous order and adaptive filtering of ideas necessary for radical innovation. Yeah, because like innovation comes out of nowhere. Like look at AI. Allows for pharmaceutical companies to keep making more money perpetually, while medical innovations in socialist societies like Cuba and China include vaccines and cancer cures. And see, when they say stuff like that, it makes it sound like really good. But where do they get the funding to research um, vaccines and cancer cures? They're either already wealthy or funded by wealthy interests. Kind of innovation of capitalism. Or has competition led to innovation? Yeah, exactly. Other than innovating new ways to be profitable, if anything, competition in a free market has led to the death of innovation. Innovation under capital, innovation under capitalism actually trends toward market sameness. And you can see this in thousands of identical products in your supermarket, on the app store, and the news. Yeah, but like, there's no like. The problem is when you start thinking like that, it gets like too efficient. Well, how do Doritos? How are Doritos more good than Cheetos? Which one is more better for people? Well, I really like the way Cheetos taste more than Doritos, but maybe Doritos are more healthy, so that's better for you. So we're not gonna make Cheetos anymore. We're gonna make Doritos. But sanction incremental update. Yeah, that's the point. Sanctioned. If you just dump everything into one innovative idea, that's how you get burned. You don't make radical changes. When you start making radical changes, that's when things go bump. Like with AI, it didn't just happen overnight. They developed little things, and those little things build into something bigger. Uh, yeah, but at least so many geniuses have the brilliant idea and lost humanity in the process. The vast majority of startups fail or get bought. The problem is it's usually done because of like counter marketing, like other companies suppressing marketing. Like it takes a team. It does take a team to build a company. I'm not saying that one person can't do it, but that's the choice. Like if someone wants to sell their company to a corporation, that should be their choice. To them, it's profit either way. Like you have to make sure the deal is good. Like yeah, exactly. Innovation will persist as long as there are problems to solve. Yeah, but like how far can you progress too much? What? What? It's not refusal to abandon fossil fuels. You can't just jump into something new like that because if it's not like ecological or um not even ecological, fuck that. Like if it's super expensive and like is less useful than fossil fuels, that would make no sense to just jump into like solar panels. Like it's probably going to cost more money to work on solar panels than it is to buy a 55-gallon drum of oil that'll last you just as long, if not longer. That's the problem with socialism is it's overly optimistic. Like there are downsides to capitalism, like with government overreach, or not government overreach, but corporation overreach, and I don't deny that. but it's better than starving.
Ways anyways, are to either reward them or to punish them. And because the rewards that come with privatization under capitalist economics are deemed in this system to be les bad, this means communist regimes in practice must threaten those who fail to meet their quotas. And then when those quotas make little to no sense whatsoever, which considering the knowledge problem of central planning, they generally often do, since communism destroys the very thing that allows an economy to have any way to know what a realistic quota even means in the first place.
Yeah,
the result is that the
like-
people who are forced to live in this kind of system are forced to do these really weird, extremely irrational things, like melting down their tools for steel in order to meet unrealistic steel quotas, or falsely accusing their neighbors of cattle theft in order to avoid punishment for impossible grain quotas, or other false accusations or other bizarre excuses that ultimately resulted in very low trust society. And then for the grain and other goods that were produced, where they were allocated was wrought with inefficiency and poor planning, usually resulting in more resources being put into cities while the rural peasants starved to death. Yeah, so much for that lie that the peasants were sold.
Because the betterment of society, it means like the majority wins. The majority always wins. There's not a majority out in the country. Well, I am going to take a break. I don't even know. I don't know if there's a way I can like pause this. I'll be back. We'll be back. I keep biting my tongue. None. Yeah. But I have to because then people will join. That's why it's not fair. I've Twitch and YouTube.
All right, guys, pull that line. Start knocking it down. All right, let's go. Let's do it. Ready, water! Check the PIO! Try fire! If we don't get this fire knocked down soon, that propane tank could be a real problem.
Copter 105, we got spot fires. What is your ETA on a water drop?
Battalion 1508, this is Copter 105. Look up. Water drop!
I'm here for an inspection. Kelly Miller.
Okay.
This is anti-Semitic. I'm fucking George Washington, dude. I'm racist as fuck.